Yes, you're live.
Commissioners, welcome to the March 11th, 2026 meeting of the Clark County Charter Review Commission. Thank you for being here. If you please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. Michelle, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Ottaguame,
Present.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Present.
Commissioner LeBrant,
Here.
Commissioner Erickson,
Here.
Commissioner Garber,
Here.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Here.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Here.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Here.
Commissioner Jay,
Here.
Commissioner Klein. Commissioner Gasquet,
Here.
Commissioner Holmgren,
Here.
Commissioner Benton,
Here.
Commissioner Haas,
Here.
and Commissioner Silliman.
Here.
We're all here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum. We'll now move for approval of the agenda. There is one modification we would like to propose. We'd like to introduce a new business item with respect to our meeting schedule. And we would, that would become item A. What is currently item A would become item B. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Klein. Second, Commissioner Garber.
Thank you. Are there any opposed? Commissioner Ottaguame.
Chair, I just want to understand if we're going to get to any first readings today. I'm not sure how long that item is that you're adding to the agenda.
The expectation is that we will get to some first readings. This is likely not a long duration discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll ask again if there are any opposed to our amended agenda. Okay, seeing none, the agenda is approved as amended. Next, go to open public comments.
We do have one person that signed up in the room, Julie Kep.
Michelle, do you have the preamble?
Oh.
Ready? Oh. So I'm Julie Kep.
Oh,
Thank,
give us one moment, please.
oh no, I can start over.
That's
Why is
okay.
this thing so in my face?
I did not have that pulled up. If you give me just a moment, Chair, I can. Oh. That's okay. How's that?
That works. Okay. So before we commence with public comment, I'll share this opening comment. Clark County Charter Review Commission welcomes and encourages public comment. Public comment provides an opportunity for members of the community to share input with the Charter Review Commission. Comments should focus on issues relevant to the Commission's responsibilities. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. The microphone will be automatically turned off once that time limit is reached. The Commission will listen to comments, but will not engage in discussion during the public comment period. During public comment, speakers are asked to keep remarks respectful, and focused on commission business. Remarks concerning private activities or beliefs of others, individual county employees or elected officials, or matters unrelated to the work of the commission fall outside the purpose of public comment. Disruptive, uncivil, and defamatory conduct is not permitted. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this process. And with that, Michelle, if you would start the timer, please.
Hi, thank you to all of you for taking on this important job that will hopefully result in a county government that serves all the citizens well. I'd like to speak against the recently added proposal amendment 26-27 titled Prohibiting Symbolic Political Proclamations by the County Council. I don't believe there needs to be an amendment in the charter prohibiting proclamations or resolutions in order to ensure that the nuts and bolts of the county by the counselors and the staff is accomplished. Indeed, I believe issuing proclamations and resolutions is part of its work. They reflect the values and priorities of the community. They allow our elected officials to engage with the public. They enhance local governance by promoting transparency, accountability, and community engagement. Crafting them with input from all corners of the county is democracy in action. Is the process sometimes messy and time-consuming? Of course. I've attended county council meetings introducing and adopting various resolutions this year. The one condemning political violence and the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the statement on immigration enforcement activity in Clark County, and finally, the Clark County Unity Resolution. And I offered my 2 cents to the council, even though I hate doing this, regarding these resolutions. But I was hardly the only person who voiced their opinion. Dozens of people took the time to gather at the council meetings to have their 2 or 3 minutes to speak their mind. In fact, your guest this evening, Mr. Kimsey, who spoke only as a resident of Clark County, expressed his support of the resolution on immigration enforcement in Clark County at one of the meetings. And we all had the opportunity to watch as the counselors themselves hashed out some of the resolution's particulars. So why did we all bother? Was it a waste of time and our breath? Was it a waste of counselors' time and the county staff time and everyone's limited bandwidth to craft these resolutions? No one's naive enough to believe that any resolution, much less the 3 I cited above, are going to change anyone's life. A resolution isn't an ordinance. They don't have the force of law. But our resolutions do, in a different way, focus on governance, public services, and matters that directly affect county residents. They do play a role in guiding administrative actions and help set priorities. Dare I say, they often reflect the values of our community. So don't tie the council's hands by prohibiting statements that, like the ones I mentioned earlier, reaffirm the commitment to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, respect for civil and human rights, and a shared commitment to the safety and dignity of all members of the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We don't have anybody else signed up in the room, but we do have a caller online. Caller, you've been sent a request to unmute. Please go ahead and do so. State your name for the record and go ahead with your comment.
My name is Bradley Branham. As a concerned citizen, I feel compelled to express my confusion, shock, and disappointment regarding last week's commission meeting. It appears that the Charter Review Commission may be relying upon an unpublished set of ethical standards that diverges from those applied by both the legislative and executive branches of county government. My concern is strongly suggested by the discussion surrounding the recusal decision that resulted in the tabling of the proposed Amendment 2603. Representing the Clark County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Jolma offered a clear, common-sense opinion grounded in law. Of particular relevance is the fact that PA Jolma serves as a legal advisor to the Clark County Ethics Review Commission. Paraphrasing her guidance, she stated that a commissioner should recuse themselves from any consideration of any amendment in order to avoid the appearance of ethical violation. 2 commissioners strongly rejected this legal opinion, thereby directly rejecting the ethical standards adhered to by Clark County's executive and legislative branches. The same ethical language is also employed by the Vancouver City Council, as illustrated in the Kim Harless case. Deviating from established ethical standards is both confusing and disappointing. Moreover, Openly disputing the legal advice of the Ethics Commission's Council is deeply troubling. The recusal impasse is since intensified. One of the aforementioned commissioners publicly announced his candidacy for Clark County in the upcoming election, while the other indicated an intention to seek elected office in a future election. As a result, removing from 2603 from the table would now require recusal decisions involving 3 commissioners. I truly believe that the chair should identify an independent ethical arbiter acceptable to the commission that would be I would respectfully suggest that the Clark County Ethics Review Commission would be the most appropriate body to fulfill this role. Finally, I raise the following additional point for serious consideration. When the chair recognizes a commissioner, that individual is acting on behalf of tens of thousands of constituents. This moment represents the fulfillment of a public trust. Announcing a political candidacy during such proceedings does not advance that responsibility. At best, it distracts from it, and at worst, it undermines the ethical integrity of the commission's work. Thank you very much.
Chair, that concludes public comment.
Thank you. We'll now move to seek approval of our March 4th, 2026 minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Commissioner LeBrandt, move to approve. I'll second Commissioner Jay.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Are there any opposed? Okay, seeing none, our minutes are approved. Thank you. We'll next move on to executive committee reports. I'll begin by mentioning that we've had some progress made on the website development. We will soon be getting some enhancements to the Charter Review Commission's website that will allow for greater transparency and visibility of our deliberation process, including the posting of all of the intake forms and an easier way to track the progress of each. Also, our commission-wide email address is now up and running with the auto response that we discussed last week. That's all I have. Commissioner Garber.
Thank you, Chair. The only thing I wanted to bring up is I received some information from Katie regarding records retention. I had asked her a question, and I'm going to go ahead and forward that on all to you regarding emails. I know there was some talking about it last time, so I wanted to share that information.
Thank you. Commissioner Haas, do you have anything that you'd like to mention?
I have nothing.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is comments by support staff. Michelle, do you have anything that you'd like to share with us?
I don't have anything today.
Okay. Kathleen, is there anything that you'd like to share with us? And Chris, is there anything that you'd like to share?
Yes, thank you. This is something that I was advised had been discussed, though I'm not sure it was, I don't believe it was discussed at a meeting of the whole commission. I think it was discussed last night at the subcommittee meeting, and that was a question of going out for legal help by using an RFP. And it is possible that you could get the assistance of another lawyer to provide you with legal services. However, that's not done by using an RFP. There is one way that the county can and county agencies can get legal help, and that is through the prosecuting attorney. Take a look, if you would like to, at RCW 3627040, which states, and the chapter as a whole states that the elected prosecutor is the attorney for the council. I'm sorry, for the county, and that the prosecutor appoints deputies. So nobody else gets to appoint deputies but the prosecutor. And if you don't like the deputies you have, then that in general is not a sufficient reason to go outside. However, if you wish to have a different attorney, that does need to go through our office. And Mr. Golick would be the person who would be making a special deputization of outside counsel. So that's what I had to say.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Earlier
Certainly.
in meetings, you, I think, indicated that you and your staff would not be reviewing the ballot language that we wanted to put forward before it was put forward. Is that correct?
No, that is not correct.
Okay, then clearly we have a
We
misunderstanding.
won't be writing it. We won't be drafting it, but we will absolutely be reviewing it for its consistency with state law and Washington state statute and constitutional law. And then we are asked to approve as to form. And approval as to form means, among other things, that the item is on its face lawful. So that's the review that we do. So I think this was brought up in the context of hiring somebody to draft, not to do legal work, but to draft. Well, you're shaking your head. Someone else was shaking their head. Yes, that is how it was brought up by Katie and me. It's fine to hire someone who is a lawyer to do non-legal work. But if you are getting a lawyer to do legal work, that goes through the prosecuting attorney.
So I guess that's where the communication breakdown is. I was under the misunderstanding, and it's probably my fault, that you weren't going to go through and vet what we wanted to put forward. Also, not having any experience in writing ballot measures, the discussion during the group for outside counsel was to assist in the legal ease, if you will, of writing these ballot measures and getting things moved forward. It wasn't for different opinions, but we're kind of stuck with not being able to have the tools, or feeling like we didn't have the tools or the support to get the ballot measures written appropriately. And that was based on what I understood you said earlier, but clearly I had a misunderstanding. So
Sounds like you probably weren't the only person. May have misunderstood what you were asking. Let me say that the freeholders hired somebody who worked for Code Publishing at the time. That's the state group that has a contract to write laws in Washington. And they hired somebody from there to do some work, to draft the initial charter. So I don't think that was a lawyer. And if it was somebody who was not practicing law at the time. They were writing things. So I don't think you need a lawyer to do this. To the extent that it's legal work, you may not use someone who has not been deputized by the prosecutor. Yes.
Could somebody share with us the prior charter amendments that have been put forth so maybe we can see how to?
They're on the charter website. They're all on the charter website, I think. Yeah, they're in one of those places.
Commissioner LeBrant, and then I have a clarifying comment I'll make as well.
Chris, while you've got the mic, and since it was brought up during open comment, I was hoping you could maybe remind us of the rules around mentioning political campaigns in this arena. electioneering with public resources and that kind of thing, just so that we stay within the bounds.
Electioneering with it by using public resources, public equipment, public building, public time is prohibited by law.
I'll offer one comment, then we'll move on. And thank you for your comments thus far. So as Commissioner Haas mentioned, that discussion was not in the context of seeking out different opinions because we didn't agree with certain opinions. It was a supplement to the efforts of this body to craft that language. Looking back at the last commission, there was a drafting committee. We'll be discussing today whether or not this body would impanel a similar drafting committee. And the discussion was around some prospective outside assistance with those efforts.
That's fine, but to the extent that legal work is being done, kind of the intention is not a relevant factor. It's just not allowed unless there's a special deputization from the prosecutor.
So we'll make sure to coordinate with your office on that topic. Thank you. Commissioner Landsberg.
Could you clarify? Obviously, I have a law degree, but if I work on these committees to write, is that going to be problematic?
I don't think so.
Commissioner Adegwami.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to highlight, it sounds like there was a statement made that electioneering using public resources is prohibited by law. And if we have an instance of that occurs, I don't know where in our bylaws or the ethics document we've adopted or the various RCWs that I'm sure apply, we address that occurrence in this body.
If the question is, do our bylaws address that? I believe they're silent. There's no treatment of that topic in our bylaws, if that's the question.
Okay, so just in the instance that there is a violation of any of the laws which are germane to the residents of the state of Washington, specifically the people on this body, we don't have a pathway to address that in our bylaws, or?
That's a good discussion that we could take up with Chris's office, but there's no mechanism in our bylaws to deal with that or to address it. It's silent on that topic, and whether or not any action would be taken, we could take that discussion up later.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll next move to invite our guest speaker. Commissioners, you may recall that we voted to invite guest speakers, and last week we heard from Judge Vanderwood. Today we're privileged to hear from Auditor Greg Kimsey. Auditor Kimsey, thank you for being here. We have allocated 15 minutes, inclusive of your comments and then any subsequent question and answer. So Michelle, if you could please put a timer up on the screen so we can be mindful of the time.
Thank you, Chair Erickson. Am I on here? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Thank you. Privileged to hear. Thank you. That's quite an honor. Appreciate it.
You have to move the mic up a little bit.
Okay.
There you go.
What's the word? As unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, I guess. I'll just hold it. Is that better? Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity. This commission has been really busy. In comparison to the last Charter Review Commission, you folks have gotten a lot of work done. A lot of work done. So I'm going to, I've looked through, I appreciate the comment about improving your website, because it is a bit of a challenge to find all of the various proposed amendments and the status of those. So I've made an effort to try to do that. I'm not going to speak on, are there 28 of them, 26? Big number.
I think we're up to 30 now.
30. Oh, so I didn't even find the last 2 or 3. So I'd like to begin with a very wise statement from a very wise legislator. Some of you will remember Senator Joe Zarelli. When I first came in office, I will always remember Joe's comment to me, which was when he's looking at a piece of legislation, the first thing he asks himself is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And then, is there another way to solve the problem? And then the third part is, can we identify any unintended consequences of that solution, of the proposed solution? So I would urge each of you, as you're considering all of these 30, I'm sure there'll be additional ones coming, to ask yourself, what is the problem we're trying to solve? So with that, I do have some, and always be concerned when a politician says brief, but I will try to have very brief comments on a number of these proposed charter amendments. And I will go pretty briefly just by mentioning your numbers. So 2601, 2 candidates, no primary. Thank you, Kathy. Love that. That was great. We'll save money for the county. It will address concerns that voters have about why do we have this on the ballot. A little more kind of just going in sequence of how these have been introduced. The 260880, which required 80% yes vote to raise taxes. A little bit confusing in the language because it talks about doesn't affect the authority of the council, but I believe the intent of it certainly is that it takes 80% yes vote to raise property taxes by 1% or any other taxes. I would just bring to your attention that in the county's general fund, which is the fund that most people think about when you're thinking about county, 70% of that fund is expended on law and justice. These costs increase more than 1% per year. One example of that, I mean, you have, wages and benefits, that's one issue, but there are other factors coming at the county as well. So for example, a recent Supreme Court decision that regarding public defense is currently forecast to triple the county's expenses for public defense work from $9 million to $25 million a year. Big number, 80% approval would make it very unlikely that this core foundational revenue source for the county would be able to be increased to assist in addressing that $16 million increase. So then there are two proposed amendments regarding deputy staffing. The one thing I've learned in my now 28 years of public service and in government, there are lots of simple questions. There are no simple answers. I get reinforced that concept almost on a daily basis. And certainly the question of how much money should the counselors allocate to one area of the county or another, specifically, how much money should be allocated to the sheriff's office, is a very complex question. We don't have enough time tonight to really go through that, but I will share with you a couple of observations from, I think, credible sources. The first being the International Association of Chiefs of Police, who says that ratios such as officers per 1,000 population are totally inappropriate as a basis for staffing decisions. Commission for the Accreditation of Law Enforcement Agencies, I think, which is the agency that our own Clark County Sheriff's Office is accredited by, also advocates that a workload-based analysis is the gold standard for allocating resources to the sheriff's office. I would restate again that there are no simple answers to these questions, and the amount of money that should be allocated to the sheriff's office is a very complex question with a very complex answer. The 2613, the legislative branch employee, it's not clear to me reading that, but I believe, and maybe Mr. Silliman can correct me or clarify, I believe the intent of that is that the council has its own employee. Is that right, Mr. Silliman?
That's correct, like every other charter county does.
If that's the intent, I think the language of the proposal could be made a little bit clearer. The proposal talks about the legislative branch employees. I have had the experience of people reading that proposed proposal and believing it includes every employee that reports to the county manager. So just think that does deserve some clarification. 2614, legislative branch performance audits. That's not an unknown model. Washington State has that model. The legislature has JLARC, and then the state auditor's office. Both conduct performance audits. It is, can certainly be seen as duplicative here in Clark County, where there's a county ordinance that authorizes, directs the county auditor, I think it's right in my ear, to conduct performance audits. If the legislative branch wants to, if voters want the legislative branch to conduct performance audits, those performance audits should be conducted in a professional manner according to professional standards. There's something in the profession referred to as the yellow book, and that requires a very specific course of work. Again, back to the question, Senator Zarelli's question, what's the problem we're trying to address? Then if the problem is we believe counselors do not have the enough authority to direct audits, there are other ways to address that problem as well, I believe. Inspector General is a very, very big step. There are very large cities, Chicago and New York, that have inspector generals. I guess I wonder if Clark County is at the scale where that's really appropriate, where the inspector general has investigative and law enforcement authority. So I would think about that a little bit more. Term limits. I'm not a fan of term limits. Voters have the ability to impose term limits. I have observed in Snohomish County and Pierce County where really good people need to move out of the organization because of term limits. Then finally, ranked choice voting. Giving the auditor unilateral authority to impose ranked choice voting is a big, big step. I really wonder if you truly want to give the auditor that authority. And a final, if ranked choice voting were a possibility for the auditor to impose, I would strongly encourage it to be limited, to be required to be a top 4 primary and then ranked choice vote in the general, as is done in Alaska and is what the legislature has been considering the past few years. So, thank you for that. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Auditor Kimsey. We have about 5.5 minutes left. Are there any questions that the commissioners would like to pose? Commissioner Hamlick.
Thank you for all that information. I appreciate it. But I have a question, and I wrote this out, so I'm going to read it as it is. What are the specific procedures and checks and balances in place for auditing or overseeing funds that are spent or approved by the county council?
Well, the auditor's office ensures when the auditor's office ensures when expenditures are made, they're made for a public purpose, have been properly budgeted and properly authorized. The state auditor's office then does come on an annual basis and audits the financial statements to ensure that those reports are accurate.
Okay. And then, like internal audits, so that's something, that's what I'm trying to clarify. That's what the state auditor would do and not yourself?
Well, the state auditor audits the financial statements of the organization. The county auditor audits the expenditures to ensure properly budgeted, public purpose, properly authorized.
Perfect. Thank you. I just needed to, thank you, clarify.
Commissioner Donnelly.
Yes, I'm very interested in the assertion that officers per 1,000 is not an appropriate standard. And I wondered if you checked that out with the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs.
I have not. I've only seen, only referencing these two organizations, the IACP and the CLEA. I would, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Alagami.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Auditor Kimsey, for your comments. I just wanted to dive a little bit further into the comment on the ranked choice voting proposal. I think the way that it's written, the intent at least, is that in a crowded field, there would be that elimination of the primary. But from what I'm taking from your comments, your ideal scenario would be that there's a top 4 primary still, and then ranked choice voting in the general. Is that the best configuration?
How I would describe it is if a jurisdiction is going to use ranked choice voting, I would strongly urge the use of a top 4 primary and then ranked choice voting in the general election. Yeah. And I can go on if you want, but interest of time.
Thank you.
All right.
Are there any other questions?
Chair, I'd just be happy for him to go on if there were no further questions, but it looks like there is one.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Auditor Kimsey. Really appreciate your taking the time to come out here. Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. Do you have any, in other proposals, or have any idea of how much it would cost the county to pursue ranked choice voting as compared to our current single member past the post?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, there would be an incremental cost. So it's been a while since I've really had to dig into that question. But our current voting system, with a relatively minor additional functionality, can tabulate ranked choice voting ballots. If you are conducting a ranked choice voting election for one or more jurisdictions and then a first past the post election for other jurisdictions, you then end up with probably end up with 2 different ballots, which would increase the cost of the election. Those election costs are then borne by all the participating jurisdictions. So it's not, well, then Kathy can help me out here, but there's an additional, there would be an additional labor cost as you're processing ballots because you are, there's just an additional sorting of ballots would have to occur. In my own view, I wouldn't look at the cost of ranked choice voting as being a reason to support. So the cost of implementing and administering ranked choice voting, and then also people argue that there's a cost savings by eliminating the primary. Now, if you use the top 4, it doesn't eliminate primary. I guess in my career, I've tried to really stay away from using cost as a reason to oppose or support changes in the democratic election process. But there certainly would be some additional costs with ranked choice voting, at least in the initial implementation.
Do one more question, Commissioner Klein.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Auditor Kimsey. Rapid round number 5. Dang, I just lost it. What is the anticipated lengthening of the ballot count time? I think that it elongates the results from tabulating the ballots.
Well, you are correct that hypothetically, theoretically, you could have multiple rounds of ballot tabulation. And that could take additional days. Yeah, that could take additional days. Yeah.
Auditor Kimsey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your time, and thank you for fielding questions.
Yep. Thanks to each of you for your service in this very important role.
Commissioners, looking ahead, we don't have any scheduled invited guests for our next meeting. That's an open slot, which could be filled between now and then. Sorry, on the 25th. On our next meeting, the 18th, we do have Sheriff John Horsch. On the 25th, we don't have a scheduled speaker. On the 31st, which as a friendly reminder, that's a Tuesday. We'll be meeting Tuesday that week, not Wednesday. We'll have Councilor Chair Sue Marshall. On April 8th, we have Councilor Glenn Young. On April 15th, we have Treasurer Alicia Topper. And then skipping to May 13th, we have County Clerk Scott Weber scheduled. Okay, moving on to our next agenda item, which is Work Plan Subcommittee report. I would like to preface this by saying that the subcommittee, which this body approved, has met twice since our last meeting. As a refresher, the subcommittee is made up of Commissioners Donnelly, Gasquet, Silliman, LeBrant, Erickson, Haas, and Garber. And we've had two meetings. Both meetings were very productive, got a lot accomplished. I'd like to commend and thank the members of the commission and represent to the whole body that some good work was done. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Gasquet, who has put in a lot of extra work in preparing documents for us to look at today that will summarize our work thus far and present recommendations. So with that, I will allow Commissioner Gasquet to present a summary of the work that the subcommittee has done and recommendations. One clarifying comment, we have not yet delved into public outreach. That is coming. That's an important part. But thus far, the work of the subcommittee is focused on the deliberation process and schedule. And we're here to, Commissioner Gasquet will present the results of that work and recommendations.
Which slide do you want up first? Do you want the flow chart or the key dates?
Bring up the real deadline, I think. Or just the, oh, you know what, actually, go ahead and bring up the key. No, let's do the presentation. Yeah, that'll explain everything then. But you guys can reference the timeline should be number 2 in your. All right, this is our timeline, and you can go to the next slide. All right, so we've been hearing this date, August 4th, and that is when our final package is due to the auditor's office. But we are not responsible for the explanatory statement. So that places our true deadline, July 17th. That's when our resolutions need to be to the prosecuting attorney in order to for them to write the explanatory statements. So you can go to the next slide. So working back from the July 17th date, we need to begin our final votes July 8th. That gives us 2 meeting buffer to finish all of that before they're due to the prosecuting attorney's office. So that brings us to June 17th being our last date to finish presentations to give the drafting committee time to draft those proposals before that final meeting. And then that brings us to May 20th being our final date for second readings. Because any subcommittee, that's created still needs time to meet and create their presentations, their final proposals in order to meet that June 17th deadline. And then our recommendation then is that we stop taking forms next week. So Monday, March 16th would be the deadline for intakes. You can go to the next slide. So this is our broader windows, so you can get a better idea of kind of what we're looking at. So proposal intakes cut off March 16th. Ideally, our first readings can be hopefully finished next week. This would allow that window March 25th to May 20th, which is only 9 meetings. So that would be our window for second readings. The subcommittee presentations, we're looking at April 8th to begin them. So, and these are just going to be on a rolling basis. So whoever presents March 25th, if your proposal passes, we create the subcommittee, and then you'd have roughly 3 weeks, right? Or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks to hopefully have someone prepared to do a subcommittee presentation. And then the final drafting, that is we only have June 19th to July 7th to finalize those resolutions before our vote July 8th. All right, and then you can go to the next. So here's our recommendations. So here's what we're recommending for the process. This gets us down to 4 votes. So we'll go with proposal intake, goes to the first reading. Then we have second reading, committee study, and then drafting, ballot, and referral. All of that will happen. 1 vote on step 2, 1 vote on step 3, 1 vote step 4, and then the final vote step 5. Then you can go to the next one. And then here's kind of like our other recommendations that came out. Due to our time constraints, we'd like to set a goal to kind of reduce the volume of second readings down to 15. We're going to ask, and you guys can see kind of the on the timeline under March 25th, the beginning of the second readings, it's kind of more notes, more in-depth notes, but you guys can see we're kind of asking on a voluntary basis that people will voluntarily defer some of the proposals to the 2027 ballot and hopefully voluntarily combine some of the proposals that are of the same or similar scope. And then we're also recommending then that we set a goal to approve no more than 12 for committee study. And that number we may even decide is even more strict based on our own abilities to be on these subcommittees. We do have a question around our meetings, whether or not those subcommittee meetings can be done online or they have to be hybrid. Then our other recommendation is that we will to track the vote totals for the second readings so that if we do end up in a time crunch towards the end, we can prioritize proposals that had higher votes. And then our final recommendation is that we extend our commission meetings by 30 to 60 minutes to give us some more time. And then you can switch over to the charter amendment process. All right, so we've made no changes to concept disclosure or proposal intake. First readings, our recommendation is that we shorten the time spent on first readings, that we all just do our homework before coming into the meetings, and so that we're only reading into record the title and sponsor name. And we try to keep this to 5 minutes per first reading. That would include just the questions. Then you can go to the next one, second reading. We are proposing a 15-minute deliberation time. That would include 3 to 5 minutes for the presentation, and then the rest of the time for either questions or the actual debate about whether or not we move it forward. And I think that's, yeah, so, and then committee study. We're recommending a 30-minute total time, about 10 minutes for presentation, 5 minutes Q&A, and then 15 minutes debate would give us each a minute to give our opinions. And then just drafting and ballot referral. Now we do have a question then around, we did add this possible retainment outside counsel. Now we're, I guess we'll have to deliberate what that means. And then just, you guys can see all the key deadlines and just an understanding of why we're making the recommendations to shorten the number that we consider during this time period. And just a reminder that anything that doesn't pass at any point in this can be resubmitted for next year. And then
Commissioner Lansbury, do you have a quick question?
Where in the timeline do you have public hearing on your amendment? Because one of the things I sponsored on redistricting has already gotten 2 written comments, so I assume we need to hold a public hearing.
so that's for our deliberations next week. That's when we'll start to try to figure out how the outreach plan fits into all of this. I have buffered it into our time frame in terms of the time spent in meetings. That's why our number needs to be restricted, even if we extend our time, because we need to have time for those, that outreach to then be reported to the body.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Silliman.
if I could just add some clarification, if we do have public input, maybe that can be directed to the people it pertains to directly, and they can share that input in one of the work sessions, either the first presentation or the committee presentation. And at the end of the process, when it's drafted, that drafted adoption is a public hearing where you're actually adopting that ordinance. So it could also be presented there, but I imagine it would be more presented as support for your amendment when your sponsor is presenting it or the committee's presenting it.
Let's let Commissioner Gasquet finish her presentation, and then we'll go to comments, including other comments by members of the subcommittee.
I think that concludes it, right? I think I covered everything.
Do you want to go over the the procedural steps at the very end of the document?
Yeah. So we can go over like those procedural notes.
Michelle, if you
And
could scroll to
anything
the
that
end.
fails can be moved to next year. Sponsors may voluntarily request referral to the 2027 ballot at any stage. And then sponsors may withdraw their proposals, but we do recommend then co-sponsors can be offered the option to become the new sponsor. And if no one wishes to take over, then it would be ineligible for the 2026 ballot.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners Gasquet. That was very insightful. I'm first going to let additional comments be made by members of the subcommittee. Then we will go and entertain questions from others. So Commissioner LeBrand, I think you had your hand up, and then we'll come to Commissioner Garber.
Yes. Regarding Commissioner Landisberg's question, also the subcommittee meetings will be public meetings. And I think Commissioner Gasquet mentioned we're still working on whether or not those can be online only or hybrid, but those are also open public meetings that get public notice for each of those. So, and then just reiterating that if we start with the block of 30 and we're trying to whittle it down, your friendly neighborhood ExcelNet was kind of crunching numbers as we went through this to come up with some of these marks that we have to try and hit in order to hit those deadlines. And the time frame is really unforgiving. So it is really important. And I'll just reemphasize what Commissioner Gasquet already said, for us to defer things to 2027 if you think it is appropriate to do so, or if possible to combine your proposal with someone else's so that we can get down to around 15 or so for the second reading and around 12 committees max. And that's not to try and limit anyone. That really is just having the number of minutes in all of our meetings. And that includes discussion of lengthening the meetings. So it's if we go beyond that, if we spend too long on the debate portion, I know we've all got strong opinions about things. We're going to go way over time, and then really hard decisions have to be made. So the more we can voluntarily keep things brief, the better. And with that, on that note, I'm going to keep myself brief.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to Commissioner Garber next, but I will mention that should this body approve what the subcommittee is recommending, then when we do get to first readings today on our agenda, what we'll first do is go around and ask anyone who is a sponsor whether or not they feel strongly about having this move forward in 2026, or if they would like to voluntarily defer to 2027. Commissioner Garber.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And Eric, Commissioner LeBrandt really kind of spoke good about the time frame. We will be in a very time crunch, and I highly recommend that we do extend our hours of this meeting. But I did want to make a motion on amending this charter amendment process on the first reading. I think the fourth bullet, it would be clearer to state sponsor may add other commissioners as co-sponsors.
So let's allow for a little bit more discussion before we go to motions. So the members of the subcommittee who have not yet spoken, Commissioner Donnelly, Commissioner Haas, we'll go to you next, and then we'll go and ask for other comments. Commissioner Donnelly, is there anything that you would like to add?
No, nothing that I'd like to add. I think my other fellow commissioners on the committee have done an excellent job, and I particularly want to compliment Commissioner Gasquet for what she did.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Haas.
Going through this, I really didn't quite put together how much work was left to do in such a short time span. And so with Commissioners LeBrandt's Excel abilities that are superhuman, it's math. It's just math and time. And if we want to spend 6 days a week for 3 hours a day in this room, we could get through all the work that we propose and all the good ideas I think that this group has, but we just don't have that time. So keep in mind when we were developing this plan, it was based on facts and math. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Okay, we'll open up to other comments. We'll just kind of go around the
Mr.
room.
Chair, may I speak to the plan too?
I'm sorry. Yeah, you'd already spoken, so in my mind, but if you have one more comment.
That was to a specific
and then we'll come back to others.
So I just wanted to emphasize that the requests to defer are voluntary. So that's a thing that I strongly emphasized and everybody agreed with on the subcommittee is it's a voluntary ask if you can defer it. It's also, I think, incumbent upon us as individuals, if you're the sponsor of it, of an amendment, you're the one that's going to have to do the work. You're going to have to do the presentation. You're going to have to form the subcommittee. You're going to have to convene them. So how much work are you going to pick up to do it? Because it's not going to be picked up voluntarily by other people. So when you think about what are you really going to push for this year, it's up to the sponsors that are doing the amendments to say how much are they going to take upon themselves, and don't expect the rest of the commission to pick it up for you. So think about that in terms of what do you expect to get done this year versus what can you defer to next year. So again, voluntary, I think we're on the right track.
Okay, so we'll next open it up to quick questions that other members of the commission may have, starting with Commissioner Aguame.
Chair, just before I get to my question, is your intention that we express our intent to speak to you, or just that we interject and start speaking? I just want to get some clarity around it because I see different treatment across different members of the commission. So just want to understand that.
Our standard protocol is that members of the commission should wait to be called upon and then recognized.
Thank you. Do you intend to enforce that?
Yes, the intention is. There's some practical limits to whether or not that can be enforced if someone chooses to speak up without being called upon.
Thank you, Chair. So my question was just, I wanted to make sure that we addressed Commissioner Landisberg's point. Because in my understanding, a public hearing is different from just having an open public meeting. I'm not certain if we actually have a public hearing requirement at all. I just want to make sure we get clarity on that before we say yes or no, we're going to implement the public hearings into this process, where we might just be saying that we want to do public outreach. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that point.
I'll take a pass at answering that, and then other members of the subcommittee could chime in if they wish. But the intent is that we are going to do voluntary public outreach. We don't have an obligation to have public hearings in the way that I think you're referencing.
Thanks.
Commissioner Landisberg.
Greg Kinsey wanted to see if he could use 3 minutes of the 5 minutes he didn't use for short comments.
Can you say that again, please?
Auditor Kimsey wanted to see if he could say like 3 minutes of comments. He didn't use all of his time.
Well, he did use all the time. Let's go around and finish discussion amongst the members of the commission, and Commissioner Auditor Kinsey, we could potentially come back to you. Commissioner Holmgren.
I just was wondering if in the discussion about the committees or the subcommittees, if there was any thought given to creating subject area committees or finding ways to combine the work of committees into not having 12 of them, instead having, 6 or something, like committees that are kind of doing multiple groups of work or covering multiple proposals simultaneously.
Well, the discussion was that a committee would be focusing on an individual amendment, and that if the material, the amendments may not be sufficiently similar to allow for one committee to properly address multiple amendments. So as of right now, the expectation is that a committee would be formed to address a singular amendment. That's a discussion that we can undertake depending on which amendments qualify for committee study and whether or not they're sufficiently similar to make that a reasonable expectation. Okay, commissioners, are there any other questions about the work plan? As being proposed by the subcommittee, we will eventually be asking, we'll entertain motions, but we'll eventually be asking for a vote to see if there's approval for this plan going forward. But before we go there, are there any other comments or questions? Richard Chrisley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a clarification question because I didn't seem quite clear to me about the public outreach, being able to comment on these amendments and what time frame that was built into the structure. I know we said we have time in here. Is that something we haven't actually figured out yet?
So I'll say that I think we're all interested in having public outreach. And the subcommittee is scheduled to meet again next week. And I think it's scheduled for Thursday, a week from tomorrow. And the intent is that in our next meeting, we would go around the room and allow everyone the opportunity to express their preferences and vision of what public outreach would look like to help inform the work of the subcommittee. The subcommittee would then incorporate that and look to overlay a public outreach program with what you're hearing today. The expectation is that public outreach with respect to 2026 is going to be seeking commentary on the amendments that were already under discussion. But concurrently, we could potentially also use that same opportunity, those same opportunities and events and efforts to solicit input for prospective new amendments that could be on the 2027 ballot. Commissioner Benson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did the committee consider raising the threshold on the first reading to have something pass through the first reading? That may filter things out and make the workload down the road a little bit easier.
There was a little bit of discussion. You may recall that the initial vote threshold was 6. This body chose to reduce it down to 5. Thus far, there have been no proposals that have been filtered out with a 5-vote threshold. There was no discussion about changing that at this point. Commissioner Haas.
One of the things that we ran into is the fact that we already have amendments that have gone through first reading. And so changing that midstream didn't sound like a really good idea to us. But what we did, and I don't think it got hit on here, this plan was developed with the understanding that it may need to be changed as we move forward and start getting it into practice. So that is absolutely an option down the road, is to amend, make motion, and just by majority change how we work.
Okay, is there anyone else who has asked a question before we come back? Commissioner LeBrant?
I just wanted to speak to Commissioner Adegweme's question around public hearings. Looking at the charter review section in the current charter, there's not a public hearing required.
Thank you.
Commissioner Holmgren.
If we have opinions or thoughts that we would like to share about the public outreach plan, who on the subcommittee should we reach out to?
Well, as I mentioned in our next meeting, the intent is that we will have an agenda item where everyone will have the opportunity to share thoughts about what the public outreach program will look like, so that when the subcommittee meets again, it will have the benefit of this body's input. So come next week prepared to share your ideas and thoughts about what public outreach would look like. Commissioner Klein.
Chair, what is the topic of discussion for the next subcommittee? Is it going to be related to the public outreach? And would you not like to have that input maybe emailed to the executive board so that you can incorporate that in your discussions next week, so that it's so you're not 2 weeks down the road and having the commission as a whole hear and weigh in? Just to throw that out as an idea as well.
So you're always welcome to email comments, and that would be well received. Logistically, the subcommittee will meet a week from tomorrow. So we will have our open meeting before the next subcommittee meeting. Okay, commissioners, it's 6:07 according to my clock. If there are no more questions about the work plan as presented, then before we take a break, are there any objections to allowing a few more minutes to Auditor Kimsey to address us? Okay, seeing none, Commissioner or Auditor Kimsey, if you'd like to take a couple minutes.
Well, thank you for your indulgence. Thank you for your indulgence. I would like to expand and clarify a couple of my comments from earlier. Regarding term limits, in my own understanding, I'm not aware of any time in Clark County where there's been a commissioner or counselor who served more than 12 years. To clarify, expand on the ranked choice voting question, you do have to wait until the day before certification where you have all the ballots before you can do the final sort. So that does require an extension of when you can actually report the final results. And then I wanted to comment on the proposal charter amendment regarding removal of elected official. And that topic is addressed in the Constitution and statute. And so again, I'd ask, what is the problem is trying to be solved? And does the proposed charter amendment, how does that align with the Constitution? So thank you again for your indulgence.
Thank you. Okay, commissioners, is there a motion for a 5-minute recess?
I was going to ask if we're going to make a motion on accepting the work plan at some point.
We'll do that after our break.
Okay, very good.
Move for a break. Klein?
Okay.
Second, Jay.
All right, commissioners, if there's no one opposed, then we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll come back here at 6:15. Thank you. Commissioners, welcome back. If you could please find your seats. Thank you for the discussion on the work of the work plan subcommittee. Thank you again for the members of the subcommittee. Thank you, Commissioner Gasquet, for your presentation. Commissioners, before we take it to a vote, are there any last comments or questions? Commissioner Adequame.
Chair, I just wanted to say that when we saw the first work plan, however many meetings ago, it definitely looked like an outline. Looking at this, it looks like a well thought out, well put together document, and I just appreciate the subcommittee's work.
Thank you. The subcommittee has done some excellent work. Thank you.
Was that a motion? Okay.
Commissioner Gerber.
After talking with Commissioner Erickson, my concern with the fourth bullet was I wanted to make sure that sponsors have the ability to select who their co-sponsors are. And he felt that this bullet does in fact reflect that. So I don't think we need to make a change. So I'd like to go ahead and retract my suggestion.
Okay. So final inquiry. Is there any, Commissioner Donnelly, do you have a question or comment? Okay. All right. Then one clarification I would make is that the recommendations of the work plan subcommittee was to extend the length of our meetings coupled with some voluntary deferment of proposals that are currently before us. Should we approve that today, then we would begin our longer meetings starting next week. And the authorization is to extend the meetings for up to 60 minutes, but that is not a commitment that we would always use all that time. It would be as needed. Commissioner Klein, do you have a question?
Clarifying question. Are we setting the schedule to go, say, until 8 o'clock or 8:30, or are we authorizing the extension should we find that we need it at the time of the meeting?
The meetings would be publicized as lasting from 5 to 8 p.m. on the website. The public notice that went out, it simply said that our meetings start at 5 without indicating an end time. But this body approved 5 to 7, so we would formally look to approve 5 to 8, and that would be updated on the website. I don't think any of us are wanting a longer meeting unless we need it, so we would monitor that process. Michelle, do you have a question, comment?
I just wanted to say, so after speaking with Rebecca this afternoon about what needed to be on the website, what we did, and you can go on there and look now, is that it does indicate as what our original press release or our press release was. So it just says meetings begin at 5 p.m. or start at 5 p.m. It does not provide an end time so that you have the flexibility at that time to end earlier, go later if you so choose.
Okay, thank you. And I think that was a change then that must have been made today.
It was.
Okay. Commissioner Adequame.
Chair, if I may ask, if I recall correctly, there was something in this room on our meeting days that we couldn't start earlier than 5, is that correct? So my preference would be to start earlier if we could, as opposed to going later. But I believe you'd mentioned that there was something in this room before this meeting.
Well, that comment was specifically with respect to our meeting on March 31st.
I think what Commissioner Adequame is actually referring to is originally when we were in the other room in 680, we couldn't start earlier due to the fact that council was having council time. Now that we have moved over to this room, we could start at 4 if you so choose, or any thereafter. I do have the room reserved for setup starting at 3, but it is requiring the setup as well. So we could go earlier if you so choose. Start earlier, excuse me. And then we would just need to update the website and I could send out another release as well.
Would that require, if we moved it to 4, for example, or any time other than 5, would that require the 14-day notice?
Yes, that would.
Okay. Well, I'll speak for myself. I would recommend against that because I believe we need the meeting time as soon as possible, given the schedule that the subcommittee has identified. Commissioner Haas.
Just an option is we don't have to set a rigid schedule tonight. If we decided that as a group we wanted to start earlier, we could run late on our next 2 meetings and have our 14 days to schedule the 4 o'clock start. Did that make any sense at all? Okay. That's if we want to do that.
So you're suggesting that our next couple meetings could go 5 to 8, but then after the 14 day notice passes, that we could shift from 4 to 7.
You said that much better than I did, yes.
Okay, that makes sense. Commissioner Holmgren.
Just as a personal note, that 4 to 7 would not be a very functional time for me or my family.
Okay. Well, since we have a lot of discussion on that topic, maybe we break out the meeting time first before we try to embed that within the larger plan. So is there a motion? Does someone like to make a motion regarding our meeting time going forward? Commissioner Klein.
Chair, I move that we extend our meeting time an additional 30 minutes to go, start at 5 o'clock, going up to 8 o'clock.
Do you mean 60 minutes? Did you say 30?
Did I say 30?
Yeah.
I saw 60. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, on a
So a
standing,
3-hour meeting.
on a standing basis.
Second, Peter Silliman.
Okay, all right. Is anyone opposed to changing our meetings starting next week, starting at 5 and going potentially to 8 o'clock? Commissioner Adegwami, you're opposed? Okay. Then we will take Commissioner Chrisley. Do you have a comment or opposition? Please.
Thanks, Commissioner. Could we just, since there is some discussion on the start time or the end time, perhaps we could just say we're willing as a body to go 3 hours. And that way, if we leave it to us to move maybe to 4 o'clock on a day that's gives us that option open instead of just closing the door on that.
You're asking if we could have a flexible start time?
Correct. Obviously, you need the 14-day notice, but I mean, my preference would be 4 to 7 too. I mean, we all have family and we were all elected to do a job. And so it's going to be inconvenient, whether it's 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock. So I don't know if that's deep consideration or not. Being a public service, that's what we do.
Well, we heard from one commissioner that was problematic. Maybe it is for others. Maybe 5 is also problematic. We may not find a single time that's going to work for everyone. So try to maximize the benefit. So it has been moved and seconded to have our meetings from 5 to 8. Are there any other comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chair. I'm loud. I just wanted to comment that while I understand that 4 o'clock might work better, I think it's important to note that 5 o'clock is a time when the public would be most likely able to engage the body, given standard work hours of 9 to 5. And though I can make 4 o'clock myself, I want to make sure that we can ensure public participation to the best of our ability by keeping it at 5. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Gasquet.
I want to point out that not all of us live near this building, so moving it to 4 o'clock actually restricts a lot of us closer to 3, just for transportation to this building.
Okay. Commissioner Adegwami, you've already asked a couple questions, so before I come back to you, I'll ask for anyone else who has a comment or question. Commissioner LeBrand.
I'll just echo Commissioner Holmgren's comment. I have a day job and moving it up to 4, and it's in Washougal, so moving it up to 4 puts me leaving work rather early. So
I would echo those comments for myself as well. Okay, Commissioner Haas.
Although I would rather start at 4, one other difficulty we may have is parking for people. So something to keep in mind. People leave here at 4 and 5 o'clock, which frees up parking spaces for us.
Okay, Commissioner Adegwami, your final comment.
Thanks, Chair. Just wanted to point out that maybe there's a middle ground. Maybe we aim for like a 4:30 to 7:30 or something that splits the difference, and also try and keep public comment in the same part of the agenda time-wise, so that if we did start earlier, it's still after 5, since it's better to have a consistent time for that versus moving it around in the agenda. So,
okay, thank you. Okay, so the motion that's on the floor and has been seconded is to meet from 5 up until 8 o'clock. Michelle, would you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Adewale,
No.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Yes.
Commissioner LeBrandt,
Aye.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Aye.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Aye.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Gasquet,
Aye.
Commissioner Holmgren,
Aye.
Commissioner Benton,
Aye.
Commissioner Haas,
Aye.
Commissioner Silliman,
Aye.
14-1.
Okay, thank you. The motion carries. So starting next week, our meetings will begin at 5 and go up until approximately 8 o'clock as needed. Okay, next, commissioners, we will come back to the updated work plan and recommendations from the work plan subcommittee as we've discussed and as Commissioner Gasquet has presented. Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Chair. I move that we adopt this plan.
Second.
Thank you. Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we update the plan as laid out. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Benton.
I move to amend that we push back the deadline for intake forms just 1 week, since this is a new deadline that's being imposed, that we give just 1 more week for initial intake.
I'll speak for myself. You know, this opportunity has been before us for several weeks, and you still have several days left to do that. And as Commissioner Gasquet has pointed out, we are on a very tight schedule. So while that is possible, there has a domino effect throughout the balance of the whole plan. So that would need to be made up somewhere. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, so the motion that was, did you make a motion? Okay, you made a motion to extend the.
I'll withdraw that motion.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay, so the motion on the floor, and that has been seconded, is to adopt the updated work plan along with the provisions and schedule outlined by the work plan subcommittee and as presented by Commissioner Gasquet. Commissioner Adegami, you have another comment?
Chair, given that that motion was withdrawn, I would like to also move to amend the motion on the floor to change the date out 1 week for the end of the first reading window.
Okay, is there a second to that? Okay, see.
We'll second.
You'll second it?
Holmgren will second.
Okay. Okay, so the motion on the floor, it's a secondary motion to amend the work plan to extend the timeframe for intake forms to be extended not through next week, but the week after. Is that correct, Commissioner Adegami?
Yes, Chair, I believe it has the 16th, so it would just go to whenever 7 days from that date is.
So the deadline would be not this coming Monday, but a week from Monday is what you're proposing. Okay. It's been moved and seconded as a secondary motion. We'll do a, Commissioner LeBrandt?
I'm going to speak in a neutral, excuse me, a neutral on this and say that I'm not sure there's a whole lot of adjustment or a whole lot that's going to necessarily result if we move that. However, it's not going to change the number of amendments that we ultimately have time to discuss through all of our subsequent meetings. So the same emphasis on deferring and combining is still going to be super important.
Okay, well, first we'll take it to a vote then. If there are no other comments, we'll first endeavor to establish this with a voice vote. So the motion on the floor is to extend the permissible deadline for intake forms to be submitted from a week from Monday. If you're in favor of that adjustment, please raise your hand. Thank you. Put your hands down. If you oppose that, please raise your hand.
Eleven to 4.
Okay, so the motion fails. We're back to the main motion, which is adoption of the updated work plan as presented by Commissioner Gasquet, representing the work of the work plan subcommittee. That has been moved and seconded already. And we will, let's do a roll call vote on that, please, Michelle.
Commissioner Ottaguame,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner LeBranc,
Aye.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Garber,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamlick,
Aye.
Commissioner Chrisley,
Yep.
Commissioner Landisberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Jay,
Aye.
Commissioner Klein,
Aye.
Commissioner Gasquet,
Aye.
Commissioner Holmgren,
Aye.
Commissioner Benton,
Aye.
Commissioner Haas,
In favor.
and Commissioner Silliman.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. Okay. Commissioners, with that, then we will move on to our next agenda item, which is first reading. And what we'd like to do is in recognition of the work plan that we just approved, we'd like to go through the amendments that have already been submitted, including those that have received the first reading and those that have not, and identify if there are any sponsors who would like to voluntarily defer their readings.
Just a point of order, Chair, my apologies, but didn't we amend the agenda to have a item before this?
We did, and it came up organically in our earlier discussion. It was about the meeting schedule.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we do want to have first readings. What we'd like to do first is to go through and clarify the status of each of the intake forms that have already been submitted. And you have the opportunity to identify whether or not you would like your proposal to remain eligible for 2026, or if you would like to voluntarily defer to 2027. This is for all intake forms, whether it's been read thus far or not. If a sponsor chooses to voluntarily defer and you are a co-sponsor for that amendment and you are still interested in seeing it move forward in 2026, you have the ability to resubmit that before the next deadline on Monday. Any questions? Commissioner Ottaguame.
Chair, if we're just reading through them and asking, are you just going to read the ones that have had first readings already? Because there wouldn't be the opportunity to identify a co-sponsor if you're asking the person if they want to defer their amendment before it's been read.
That's correct. That topic only applies to those that have received the first reading, because those that have not had a first reading don't have a co-sponsor, so that will not apply. Okay. Any questions before we begin? Okay, so we will start with 26-01, clarifying nonpartisan offices. Sponsor is Commissioner Garber. Commissioner Garber, can you indicate whether or not you would like this to remain 2026 or be deferred?
I would like it to stay in 2026.
Okay, thank you. Amendment proposal 26-02, creation of public advocate ombudsman for Clark County offices. Commissioner Garber is the sponsor. Commissioner Garber, what would you like to do there?
At this time, I would like to withdraw it. I know there is another one regarding ethics, and I think that I would like to offer the ability to be a co-sponsor on the ethics one and withdraw this one.
Okay. Thank you. Withdrawn. Next, 2603, increase in county councilor salary compensation. Commissioner Garber, what would you like to do?
I would like to leave it for this year.
Thank you. 26-04, provide ASL interpretation services. Commissioner Garber, what would you like to do?
I would like to defer that to 2027.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 26-05, signature requirements for initiative. Commissioner Garber, what would you like to do?
At this time, I would like to withdraw it.
Okay, thank you. 26-06.
Question. Sorry. We said that we were going to ask the co-sponsors if they wanted it to stay.
Yep,
Is,
we'll come back to that.
okay.
Yep. 26-06, change Charter Review Commission elections from 5 to 10 years. Commissioner Garber, what would you like to do?
I would like to defer that to next year.
Thank you. 26-07, requiring land supply and construction cost analysis. Commissioner Jay, what would you like to do?
I would like to keep that on 26.
Thank you. 26-08, requiring supermajority council approval for county taxes. Commissioner Jay, what would you like to do?
26.
26-09, prohibiting county government from interfering with initiatives and charter amendments. Commissioner Jay, what would you like to do?
You haven't read that yet.
No, but whether it's had a first reading or not, the question still applies.
26.
Thank you. 26-10, revise budget transparency and process. Commissioner Silliman, what would you like to do?
26, please.
Thank you. 26-11, 1% tax levy limit. Commissioner Silliman, what would you like to do?
26, please.
Thank you.
Same with the next three.
So 26-12, -13, and -14,
Yes, sir.
all 26. Thank you. Okay, 26-15, ethics. Commissioner Gasquet, what would you like to do?
26.
Thank you. 26-16, sorry. 26-16, authorize council removal of appointed counselors for boards, commissions. Commissioner Hamlick, what would you like to do?
Sure.
27. (26-17), add removal power to county counselors. Commissioner Landsberg, what would you like to do?
I'd like to keep it for 26.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, a question.
Sorry.
Commissioner Adegwame.
It says withdrawn on the meeting that was on March 4th for that
Yeah.
one.
I did withdraw it, but since Commissioner Hamlick is postponing it,
Right.
I can submit it again as first reading, or you can just accept it. But it's no longer withdrawn.
Okay, so you, can you clarify again what your intent is? I'm not sure I follow you.
Okay, so I have a very short proposed amendment on that issue. Commissioner Hamlick's was way more. She wanted to defer. I still want to present mine in 26, or at least have a go at it.
Okay, so you no longer wish for it to be withdrawn.
Correct. Do I need to resubmit, or can we undo the withdrawn?
I think this discussion is sufficient. Okay, 26-18, Superior Court judges nominated, clerk of the court, Mr. Landsberg.
That's deferred to a different year.
So this is 26-18. You want to defer that to next year?
Well, actually, I really want it on the ballot the following year,
So 2027 or 20,
the presidential election year, 28.
well, right now the question is, do you want it on 2026 or deferred to later?
Not I defer this year.
Okay. Thank you. 26-19, amend redistricting process, Commissioner Landesberg.
Can I just ask Commissioner Holgram what his feeling is, because he was going to set forth a similar thing.
I think it's reasonable that that can be combined with other proposals, given how limited in scope your proposal is. So I think
Deferring
maybe
it.
defer. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
So you're deferring.
I'll defer to next year.
Okay. Okay, that was 26-19. We're on 26-20, limitation on consecutive terms. I am the sponsor for that, and I will keep it in 2026. 26-21, executive elected officials remain elected. Commissioner Donnelly,
I would defer that to 27.
thank you. 26-22, permit county auditor to adopt ranked choice voting. Commissioner Alaguame,
Defer.
thank you. 26-23, revise council powers regarding boards and commissions. Commissioner Alaguame,
Keep.
thank you. 26-24, require annual report publication by the county manager. Commissioner Alaguame,
Keep.
Twenty-six 25, modify council composition. Commissioner Alaguame,
Keep.
26-26, Clark County's requirement to support public safety. Commissioner Donnelly,
Keep for 26.
thank you. 26-27, prohibiting symbolic political proclamations. Commissioner Jay,
26.
thank you. 26-28, role of council members on boards and commissions and method of appointment and replacement. Commissioner Donnelly,
Keep.
thank you. 26-29, allowing the removal of executive branch elected officials by the county council. Commissioner Holmgren.
Keep.
Can I ask, is there any overlap between 26-28 and 26-29? Are those similar enough that they might be candidates to merge?
Not substantially different.
Yeah, I think they're quite
Okay,
different.
all right. Just exploring. All right, thank you. And then 26-30, adjusting council size for population. Commissioner Holmgren.
Defer.
Defer. Okay. Okay, so we have 20 that are still on our plate for 2026.
Currently, it's progress.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. So commissioners, if you were a co-sponsor on an amendment that has already received a first reading, and the sponsor of that amendment has chosen to defer, but you are still interested in that moving forward in 2026, your path forward then would be to resubmit that same proposal by Monday, identifying yourself now as the sponsor rather than the co-sponsor. Any questions on that topic? Mr. Holmgren, I think this addresses your question. So we're not going to go around and ask people now if they want to do that, but the option exists that if you are a co-sponsor on an amendment that has since been deferred in this meeting, and you feel that it's important for it to move forward in 2026, then you can submit that anew. Commissioner Alaguame.
Chair, just a quick question. If the amendment that you were a co-sponsor on has been deferred, but it's likely that it will be absorbed in a different proposal, is there a pathway for becoming a co-sponsor on that proposal instead?
Is it, so it's one that has not yet had a first reading?
No, they have both had first readings. One is deferred, one the sponsor chose to keep in the year, but they were similar. And so what is the pathway to becoming a co-sponsor on that one?
Okay, which two are you talking about?
2602 and 26-15.
26-02 and 26-15.
Yes, Chair, that's correct.
Okay. Okay, so 2602, Commissioner Garber, you withdrew that one, correct? 02?
Actually, I asked for it to be merged to 2615. I
Yes.
said it should be combined,
Okay.
and I asked to be a co-sponsor on that.
Okay. And then Commissioner Gasquet, you are the sponsor for 26-15.
Yeah, this isn't actually accurate. I already had Commissioner Adequame as a sponsor. He had volunteered after the first reading.
Okay. So you have, currently it's listed that Commissioner Hamlick is a co-sponsor, but you're indicating that actually Commissioner Adequame has since identified the interest in being a co-sponsor. I guess whether that has been documented or not, are you interested in having additional co-sponsors, Commissioner Gasquet?
Yeah, I think that there was a longer list of people who had already volunteered, and I will send that to Commissioner Garber so that she can update the list.
Okay. All right. So Commissioner Adequame, does that address your comment?
It most certainly does, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Start with 26.
First one that's 608 had a first reading, 2609.
Okay, Commissioners, thank you for that. So with the time that we have left, we will endeavor to get a couple of first readings in. These will be limited to proposals that we just identified as remaining eligible for 2026, but have yet to have a first reading.
This one that got tabled, compensation.
As well as we have yet to take a vote on 26-03. So 26-03, we've already had discussion. It's been read. There have been some clarifying questions. We simply did not take the vote. Clarification, 26-03 is increase in county councilor salary and compensation. That was tabled. Is there a motion to take that off the table for a vote?
Landisberg, I move that we vote on this.
Okay, you'd like to take off the table. Is there a second?
Second that, Commissioner Jay.
Okay, is there any opposed to taking 26-03 off the table and having a vote? Commissioner Adequame.
Chair, I think we've gotten both statements from the public and from the county prosecuting attorney's office regarding what recusal should look like surrounding this. So I would just want to make sure that we're very clear on what our intent is if we're going to take this off the table and have discussion and a vote.
So there has been some clarification on that topic as to what the prosecuting attorney's office opinion is. The decision as to whether or not a commissioner will abide by that recommendation is left with the commissioner to decide for themselves.
Thank you, Chair.
And as a reminder, we're simply looking for whether or not there are 5 affirmative votes at this point. This is the vote of the first reading. So that being said, for amendment 26-03, increase in county councilor salary and compensation, co-sponsor Commissioner Garber. If you are in favor of 26-03, qualifying for a second reading, would you please raise your hand?
Nine.
9 votes. Thank you. So it does qualify for a second reading. Commissioner Hamlick?
I don't think we got around to do co-sponsors on this. When we were asked, I would like to be a co-sponsor.
For 26-03. Okay. Thank you. So we'll make that clarification. So are you, Commissioner Holmgren, are you asking to be a co-sponsor? Okay, we'll come back to that. So Commissioner Garber, you already have a co-sponsor, Commissioner Gasquet. And there's others who are interested in being a co-sponsor. Are you interested in having additional co-sponsors?
Yes, I guess I'd like to see who's
Okay.
willing to.
So we have Commissioner Hamlick who's interested in that, and Commissioner Holmgren.
Yes, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you. Okay. We'll do one more first reading and then we'll allocate time for good of the order. So the next proposal that we just decided would remain eligible for 2026, but has yet to have a first reading is 26-09, prohibiting county government from interfering with initiatives and charter amendments. Sponsor is Commissioner Jay. This was submitted before our decision to solicit co-sponsors in this meeting. So co-sponsors are listed as Commissioners Donnelly, Klein, Erickson, Silliman, and Benton. And we discussed in the work plan that we just adopted that we would not be reading it. We'll be leaving the title and the sponsor and then asking for a vote after any clarifying questions. So are there any clarifying questions that commissioners would like to pose to Commissioner Jay? Commissioner Chrisley.
Has this been run through legal about whether we're going to infringe upon the counselors' constitutional rights to free speech?
Is that a clarifying question?
This wouldn't prohibit the individual county councilors from exercising their free speech. It would only prohibit the county council from voting in favor or in opposition to any charter review amendments or initiatives or referendum that are currently being considered by the council. But if an individual councilor wants to send out a press release that says they support something or they oppose something, then they have that God-given right. As per an elected, they do not lose that constitutional right as an individual citizen, and that will be protected by this amendment. It is only a prohibiting of the county council as a whole, as a body, from weighing in on issues that are before voters.
Commissioner Landsberg.
Quick question. Has this ever happened?
Yes, it actually has passed in Whatcom County.
No, but here in Clark County, has there been a time where the council weighed in or voted yay or nay on any of the amendments or interfered with what you're proposing?
This was largely inspired, I guess, by some of the what I saw with the Vancouver City Council with their Safe Streets initiative as they voted it down. So this was inspired by, well, obviously by Whatcom, but also by incidents that I saw in the Vancouver City Council. And so I just wanted to codify that on the county side.
Okay. So again, clarification, we're asking for clarifying comments. We did not start the timer. I think we are about 2 or 3 minutes into this, so we'll allow for a couple more minutes on this before we cut off. Commissioner LeBrand and Commissioner Adequame.
No need to answer here, but if you could, in your second reading, provide some clarification or some analysis of how this differs from the state law that touches on the same subject, that'd be helpful.
Commissioner Adequame.
Just wanted to ask if you've considered whether or not this could actually be combined with 26-27. They're a very similar theme. I think one is just, this one zooms in, and then the other one seems a little more broad. So just curious if you thought about that.
I did think about it. The two amendments were inspired at different times, and I had thought about it, but I wanted to make sure that if there was something, if the commission agrees that both should move forward, I would definitely be open to it, but I didn't want to necessarily handcuff them prematurely in case that we like one and we don't like the other, or vice versa.
Okay, thank you. Are there any final clarifying questions? Commissioner Gasquet.
There's several several articles listed. Are you intent to put the same language repeated, or would the language differ across those articles?
That's fair. Because this is one of the first ones that I wrote, I didn't necessarily know how specific I needed to be on the articles or exactly where. So I kind of found areas that reference charter amendments, reference county council powers, and just sort of broad swept included them. Where it would ultimately go, I think, can be decided in the committee and drafting process.
Okay, thank you. All right, so commissioners, if you are in favor of proposal 26-09, prohibiting county government from interfering with initiatives and charter amendments, with Commissioner Jay as the sponsor, moving forward and qualifying for a second reading, would you please raise your hand?
Eight.
Thank you. Okay, with 8 votes, that does qualify for a second reading. So given our time, commissioners, we will suspend further first readings. We'll take this up in our next meeting. And we will move into our final agenda topic, good of the order. Is there anything that commissioners like to bring up in good of the order? Commissioner Adegwami.
Chair, you mentioned earlier in the meeting that we have one unallocated speaker slot, and I would like to encourage that we invite someone from the Ethics Review Commission to come and speak to us.
Okay. We'll first see if that's a good comment. We'll first see if any of the people who have already been elected want to fill that. And if no one accepts that, then we can extend that invitation to others. So let's see a hand over here. Commissioner Landsberg.
It may be able to be deferred to next year, but if we're going to discuss the election of the clerk of the court versus the appointment, it would be interesting to hear from the district court administrator how it works at the district court level, because they are not elected.
I believe that those invitations went out. We did send.
They aren't elected, so I don't know if they were invited.
Well, I guess we can clarify that a number of invitations did go out to the judiciary branch, so we can clarify that. But we'll first see if those who have been extended invitations wish to take a spot, and if they all decline, then we will fill that with these other recommendations. Commissioners, are there any other items to bring up and get to the order? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved, Klein.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Jay.
Okay, any opposed? Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, commissioners.
Sure.